Hello everyone, we're gonna be reading through the Drukhari Codex, so you can get a nice little sleep. They are the prey takers, the blade masters, and the flesh crafters. They are the scheming, self-serving raiders of a galaxy fit to fulfill their haunted pleasures. These torturers and enslavers feed a sickening soul hunger with the pain and fear of others. They hunt on moonless nights and crawl from pools of shadow, all to feast on anguish. Pray you are worthless enough to be ignored. Pray you will see the dawn's light with intact eyes. Pray they do not take you alive. Introduction. Welcome, Galactic Reader, to Codex Drukhari. In your hands is a tome to entice and amuse your jaded passions. Inked upon its bound pages are revelations of cruel drives of a decadent alien aristocracy, the depths to which these sadistic pirates gladly dove to survive, and the ways in which they flourish, unhindered in a fractured and fearful galaxy. The Drukhari are a degenerate society of ancient Eldari Xenos race. They are a dark culture of torturers and raiders, striking out at the galaxy's inhabitants from their labyrinthine shadow realm of Kamorag. Selfish, prideful, arrogant, and murderous, the Drukhari are a self-serving people. The militant syndicates of their cabals, the hedonistic gladiatorial cliques known as witch cults, and the homunculus covens that operate gruesome guilds of arcane alchemists all vie with each other for power and material wealth. The Drukhari's fractured civilization is held together with fear, intimidation, and a horrific trade in pain and torment that feeds their withered souls. With advanced science, they emerge from webway portals to raid with superior anti-grav vehicles, hideous vat-grown cyborgs, and courtiers of venom-shooting killers, all to secure yet more captives for their bloody arenas and vile laboratories. The diverse range of Drukhari miniatures offers a fantastic array of options for both veteran holiers and newcomers alike. Just as the factions within Kamorag society ally in rupture and shifting collusions, your real space raiding party on the tabletop might be made up of a mixture of forces. Conversely, they may concentrate solely on one or two armies to represent the warriors of a single obsessed noble. Perhaps you prefer gang-like cartels made up of Cavalite warriors and their ruling archons, supported by attack crafts such as Void Raven bombers or the winged services of mercenary scourgers. Maybe the exotic arena fighters of the witches are more to your style, leaping into battle from Baroque, skimming transports, and being accompanied to war by exotic beasts. Or perhaps your raiding party requires the surgical horror of the homunculi and their shambling creations, wielding toxic-coated blades. However you put your Drukhari force together, they offer a satisfying painting experience for all people of all abilities. The range offers a myriad of textures of smooth curves and angular armored panels, exposed flesh, barbed chains, and flayed skin. Not to mention the possibility of strange alien creatures that fight for the Drukhari. These provide a rich palette that can be vividly brought to life in a simple or as complex way you prefer. This codex contains all the rich backgrounds, stunning imagery, and evocative rules you need to put together your own real space raiding party of Drukhari, along with photographs of stunningly painted examples to inspire your own creations. It also contains exciting crusade content you can use to follow the sadistic careers of your arrogant warriors from one prey world to the next as they amass even more power. The toxic factions of the Drukhari are the most sadistic, decadent, and vicious elements of a long-lost stellar empire may occupy the splintered city realm of Komorog within the twilight domain of the ancient webway. From there, the Drukhari raid and plunder the myriad races of the galaxy. The Drukhari are experts in precise torture, sharp blades, cruel poisons, and eldritch abominations. Using the labyrinthine network of webway spars, they strike almost anywhere. Real space raiding parties prey upon worlds across the galaxy, surging from hidden portals, unknown to those they see merely as cattle or playthings. To those they leave alive to spread fear of their passing, these arrogant Xenos are evil incarnate. While the Drukhari's superior science has mastered a multitude of feats, it ultimately focuses on their victims' misery, how to create it, and how to prolong it. Striking where they please, not for any resources their victims value. They come to inflict suffering and anguish only ingenious Epicureans of torment could imagine. The agony of others fills an aching void within them, a cursed soul debt they must all pay, and pay they do, with inordinate relish. Twilight Readers. The Drukhari exemplify every obsessive and wanton act of cruelty that all Eldari risk giving into. They are a selfish breed of Xenos raiders, seeking only their own twisted fulfillment at the expense of all others, even their own kind. In piratical forays of all sizes, the Drukhari prey upon the races of the fractured galaxy, reveling in the slaughter and fear they cause. From the depths of their subdimensional realm, the dark city of Komorog, raiding parties of sadistic Drukhari gleefully strike out. They hunt for pleasure, and their pleasure is the pain and terror of the galaxy's races. For those unfortunates taken as captives, a drawn-out existence of agony and fear awaits, providing sport, amusement, and spiritual sustenance for their captors. Little pleases the Drukhari more than the screams of their prey, the sight of the horror in their victims' eyes, or the feel of flesh parting underneath their blades. Every nuance of misery that the refined senses of the Eldari can detect. The sight, sound, and taste of suffering is a potent narcotic that Drukhari raiders rapaciously consume. The Drukhari are tall, slender, and graceful in form, with natural athleticism, life strength, and perceptive senses. Their long lives are artificially extended by gruesome means, enabling them to devote their piercing intellect across entire epochs to the mastering of singularly depraved obsessions. They are masters of many forms of close combat, with hooks, blades, and cruel lashes of countless types. In the deadly cut and thrust of acrobatic melee, their speed and dexterity make them lethal. A Drukhari's skill in close combat slaughter extends to each part of their body. Many of their varied castes of warriors wear a variety of close-fitting bodysuits or segmented armor, which affords incredible agility and often incorporates razor-sharp blades and barbs. Drukhari's science produces abominable poisons and hemotoxins, or elixirs made from the rendered-down remains of their captors. In their eldritch forges are built superlative personal armaments, as well as lightning-fast strike craft and anti-grav vehicles, which are fitted with monomolecular barb and other weapons that inflict painful death in exotic ways. Real Space Raiders. Raiding parties of Drukhari, forged through fractious alliances in Komorog, attack planets, orbital habitats, fleets of ships, and any other target that offers bounties of sentient beings. In blade-proud transports, they often strike from above, appearing with no warning in order to stoke as much confusion and terror as possible. Drukhari technology is so far advanced that it is often viewed as mystical or magical by the races they prey upon. Their splinter weapons fire shards of crystalline substances laced with engineered venom, while other armaments defy any notions of physical laws known to the Imperium. Baroque, trophy-hung barges descend on jets, unleashing beams of darkness, nightmarish energies, or psycho-empathetic terror fields. Surgically augmented mercenaries and pain adepts leaped from their dark realm through shimmering portals directly into the terrified presence of their prey, while ghastly horrors crawl from the shadows themselves. Drukhari often attack as nightfalls, or their strange technology can even artificially generate such conditions, causing base fears to claw at their victims' minds. Most real space raids are convened to take captives, the raw fuel upon which Drukhari society thrives. Once brought to Komorog, these unfortunates are hunted in vast arenas watched by thousands, experimented upon with vile surgeries and drugs, or are used to fulfill any of the countless roles by which the Drukhari can profit off their suffering. Even in raids with unusual and esoteric goals, such as the enacting of vengeance upon a rival, the execution of some murderous performance, or the theft of an advanced artifact from their kin, the Eldari of the craft worlds, participation by the cruel citizens of Komorog is highly sought. All Drukhari desire is to sate a gnawing need at their heart, to inflict pain wherever possible. If not against all the other races in the galaxy, then readily upon other Drukhari within Komorog. The Dark City. Komorog is unlike any city of the Imperium. It is a twisted, fractured connection of sub-dimensions and satellite realms within the shifting webway of legend. Human captives brought into its envisions cannot comprehend even the fraction they can see of the dark and shadowy landscape. A labyrinth of dark spires, crowded slums, starship docks, and vast arenas, threaded through with streams of screaming cactus and snarling beasts, overlay layers of hidden donjons, obelites, and secret abodes. The temporal and spatial irregularities within the webway have allowed Komorog to spread and branch like a tainted crystalline fungus that reflects the society within. Cunning and powerful factions vie for prominence in a realm where piracy, murder, scheming, and betrayal are facts of everyday life. Only the strong survive in Komorog, and the Drukhari have had millennia to win out the weak. A concentration of evil. No Eldari would willingly risk traveling through the warp. There, the bright flare of their souls would attract the attention of the Chaos God Slanesh, whom all Eldari fear as she who fasts. Instead, they employ the webway's maze passages. At the center of this inconceivably huge construct of astral nodes sits Komorog. The Dark City's mountainside spires house the ostentatious halls of the Drukhari elite. Beneath these crooked pinnacles cluster weapon shops and laboratories, moon-sized dockyards, the chambers of the lesser lordlings, corkscrews, skyways, sinister shrines, and gladiatorial arenas. Encrusted about the foundations of the Dark City are a shifting morass of nightmare slums, dead-end alleyways, and predator-haunted hovels, while hanging like benighted fruit below are the sickening demonesses of fleshcrafters and archaeologists. Entire pocket dimensions are held together in deeper levels of existence by incomprehensible technologies. Gravity is applied where it is needed. cruelly wrought to suit the arrogant whims of those who master it. Stolen suns shine weakly in the firmament, orbited by captured planets and shoals of gutted starships. Their crews are long since prized out of every cranny. The impossible landscape of Komorog is the result of millennia of boundless ambition and reckless expansion, and bears many scars of Drukhari hubris, such as the yawning maw known as Cain's Gate, through which the denizens of the warp are able to pour into the Dark City. The genesis of evil. More than 10 millennia ago, the galaxy-spanning empire of the Eldari came to a cataclysmic end in the race's fall. Many of the splintered survivors of that apocalypse forged their own course of desperate existence from that time onward, but the Drukhari can be said to have trodden their dark path for far longer, turning an established decadence into their salvation. Any knowledge of Xenos is brutally suppressed within the Imperium. Thus, only a fraction of mankind's teeming trillions knows anything of the Eldari's supposed history. Of these, most are high-ranking agents within the shadowy Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition. Some within this group are entrusted by Eldari contacts with tales that claim to tell of the fall of their race. Yet the natural suspicion of Inquisitors leads them to view such data as disinformation, myth, or at best, apocalyptic metaphor. Nevertheless, they are tales that all Eldari learn, and that different strands of their race treat variously as cautionary tales of hubris, stories of ultimate betrayal, and even accounts of the excision of weakness. The ancient Eldari Empire existed as the most advanced and dominant race in the galaxy many millions of years ago. Through their science, they created worlds and extinguished stars, while the unlimited potential of their psychic arts ensured that there was no force that could deny their authority. The technologies at their fingertips meant the Eldari could live a life of leisure, free from the concepts of manual labor, able to pursue any diversions their powerful emotions and soaring intellect could conceive. Using the webway, they travel between the stars of the galaxy in a heartbeat, delving into esoteric studies and unusual passions. The long lifespan of the Eldari led many to seek ever more extreme avenues of exploration as they tested the limits of their own psyches. The thoughts and emotions of their race can rise to heights of bliss or plumb dark nadirs of anguish that are unknown to mankind. These extremes were reached for by many of an arrogant race that increasingly saw itself as far beyond any boundaries of morality. On many Eldari worlds, cults of pleasure and pain, dabblers in extravagant technologies, and lodges that consorted with narcotics distilled from across their pan-galactic empire sprang up. The Eldari had spread from the worlds at the heart of their civilization to not only countless other planets throughout the galaxy, but also within the webway itself. Nodal cities and mighty ports flourished within the interconnected network of misted passageways that led to Eldari colonies far and wide. Some of the pleasure cults among those devotees were great numbers of the aristocratic nobility of Eldari society, relocated into these webway settlements as they came under pressure to curb their excesses. Within these complex hubs, where shadowy trades in people and substances could be carried out secretly, many of them flourished. The greatest of the webway's mighty port cities was a vast metropolis known as Komorog. Its unrivaled connections to countless portals ensured its value, and granted the city unprecedented autonomy to ensure that no one faction within the empire could deny its use to another. Yet, with lax regulation, Commora grew ever larger and became a home for every illicit and reprehensible pastime within the Empire. The dilettante lords and ladies who heeded many of the pleasure cults grew more powerful, and with both their influence and Comora's vast flow of shipping and connections, countless shadowy creeds spread to world after world. The Eldari's psychic souls flare brightly in the mirror realm of the warp. Powerful emotions in that dimension can take form, and the soaring highs and crushing lows of the psychically sensitive Eldari began to coalesce. Quiescent ripples of agony and ecstasy echoed through time and space. The surging tides of the warp began to coil in a vortex around the constant stream of extreme sensation that flowed from the increasingly depraved society of the Eldari. Around their emotion accreted a nascent entity of excess, content at first to wait and grow. It fed on the torrent of intensity put forth by the Eldari, while its dreams in turn seeped back to them, driving their vile exuberance to greater depths. The Fall. There were those in the Eldari Empire, among the spiraling insanities and obsessions pervading their people, who foresaw the calamity. Some of the first to act were the Exodites, who left the decadent centers of civilization behind to begin again on wilderness worlds, far from the trappings of indulgence and excess. Much later, after incalculable efforts of psychic engineering, a movement of ascetic Puritan departed on delicate planet-sized ships, bearing huge colonies through this void and into the depths of empty space. These were craft worlds, and among those who fled upon them were many with a seer sight. They prophesied a terrifying and tragic horror ahead that echoed through time. Their warnings were scoffed at or ignored, and some of their number fell foul of the influential pleasure cults before they had chance to escape. Freed of the appalled and doubting elements that had barely kept it in check, Eldari society plunged deeper into lavacious decay. Towards the end, the streets of their ancient cities ran with blood. Star-spanning orgies of pleasure and unbridled violence accompanied clashing rhythms, dazzling sights, and depraved crimes as the Eldari tore one another apart in heady displays of cruelty. In truth, their race's decline had taken many millennia to congeal into the grotesque abomination of reality. When the end came, it was in a single horrifying instant. The Chaos God Slaanesh, the Dark Prince of Excess, was birthed in the roiling warp of a reality-shattering metaphysical roar. Its exultant psychic screams ruptured the veil between the warp and real space. Hundreds of star systems at the heart of the Eldari Empire were rent apart, and countless more swallowed whole. The greatest warp storm the galaxy had ever seen erupted in their place, a yawning tempest of madness thousands of light years across, that which mankind would later call the Eye of Terror. In its first sucking intake of existence, Slaanesh drained the souls of almost the entire Eldari race, gorging on the pain of billions upon billions in a single gluttonous moment of excess. The resilient Eldari psychic essences, capable of experiencing extremes, suffered an infinity of agony. Very few Eldari escaped this fate. Some of the Exodites and those aboard craft worlds, the forebears of the Yessssssssssss, had managed to flee fast enough or far enough, but many of their number still perished. The Eldari maintained that, during Slaanesh's birth, it even devoured most of their gods. As an empire, the Eldari had ceased to be. As a species, a desperate struggle for survival has dominated their lives ever since. The webway network, occupying its twilight site between the warp and real space, suffered terribly from Slanesh's arrival. Vast tracks were crushed or fractured, allowing the essence of the warp to pour in at many places, with daemons following greedily. Yet many dimensions and spars within the webway survived, and Komorog itself remained unbreached. Multiple layers of psycho-crystalline defenses sealed off tainted or damaged spars, while other sections mysteriously vanished, never to be seen again. Shielded by the ineffable nature of the webway, those within Komorog survived Slanesh's birth screams. In their supreme arrogance, they did not cease their quest for excess and selfish fulfillment, not even for a moment. Repentance, atonement, or shame for what they surely must have understood could be traced, in part, to their own actions, were unknown concepts to a people who acknowledged no limits on their ambition or power. If the inhabitants of the webway port city believed they had escaped without consequence, that they had evaded the Chaos God's immortal hunger, they were deluded. Their echoes of Slanesh's gluttony rippled throughout existence, and wrought insidious changes within the remaining Eldari on Komorog. They had not escaped the full of their race. It was a long time before they realized it. Rather than having their sentient essence consumed by the Chaos God in one great draught, their souls were slowly draining away, drip by drip, into the warp. There, they were swallowed by Slanesh, the abhorrent warp entity that haunts every Eldari, and that they all know as She Who First. The remnants of their race fear Slanesh, for the god of desire was born of their own dark obsessions, and hungrily waits beyond the veil for them. They have a terror of dying that runs far deeper than the mere regret of a life ending. The Eldari's strong psychic self can survive death, and while once their souls passed, they believed, into the realm of their own gods, now all that waits to feast upon them is Slanesh. Different surviving strands of the Eldari race discovered their own ways of avoiding this horror. The Eldari of Komorog, those who became the Drukhari, and endured the aching seepage of their souls, found that others could suffer in their stead. The Soul Debt. Those who became Drukhari had long preyed upon others, whether Eldari or further sentient species. Now they saw that stringing the moments of pain and terror out as agonizingly as possible replenished their waning spirits. Thus they were born the Drukhari. As a new era of feverish torment and captive acquisition spread throughout Komorog, they became a race of sadistic parasites, feeding the yawning void within themselves by committing the most unspeakable acts of excruciation. Through their advanced technology, they devised ever more macabre ways of extracting suffering, with which they paid the soul debt they would forever owe to She Who Firsts. In their selfish and indulgent narcissism, they viewed other races, even other Eldari, as weak beings deserving of contempt, and as chattel whom individual Drukhari had the right to abuse and discard for their own dark ends. The agony of others, savoured by the Drukhari's refined senses, nourished their rivering souls. But while the curse could be abated, it could never be denied. The gnawing of Slanesh's hunger clawed at the soul of every Drukhari, winnowing their spirit and vigour constantly. Every delicious nuance of terror, every sublime nerve-shredding ounce of pain that they drank in from their victims could only provide temporary succour from the unstoppable soul sickness. Thus, the Drukhari sank into a spiraling mire of damnation and depravity. Those who could not sate their need for anguish suffered a horrific withering of spirit. They became shadows of their former grandeur, desperately seeking any morbid sustenance. Fading to husks, these unfortunates weakened until they were prey for any other pain-hungry Drukhari. Meanwhile, those who had recently fed on the most subtle and rare of agonies shone with a cold aura of vigor. Dull eyes regained their malicious gleam, and a supernatural potency invigorated their souls. Raids into real space multiplied as never before, seeking captives to satiate the Dark City's people. The countless pleasure cults, guilds, lodges, and syndicates vied for power and patronage. Piratical fleets of ships spread out through the galaxy, herding millions of captives into the depths of Commorragh every day. The trade of prisoners and of expertise and misery and degradation blossomed like a dark flower. To this day, Commorragh remains a canker of evil. The Drukhari raid from its dark portals to claim captives for gruesome ends. In many cultures, countless myths and dark fables warn of lean hunters with grasping hooks and hungry grins, who kill the fortunate with each caress and take away those who are not. And that's the end of part 1. I hope you enjoyed. Nighty night.